So the first thing we're going to do is connect this plus hole to this plus hole. And the way that we're going to do that, once again, is taking our thread, which has been knotted so that way it won't come off here, and also knotted here so that it'll stop, and connecting those two. Now you're going to want a fairly long thread. 2 or 3 feet should do it. Don't worry about any excess. You will wind up with excess, but you can just cut the thread down and continue using it. It's a lot easier to use a longer thread than a short one. So right here I am pinching the fabric like the technique explained earlier, so that way this will go through one layer and one layer only, so the glove doesn't get sewed together, and it's still fairly easy to pull through. And as we talked about earlier, just pulling through to the knot. And we want to go through this 1 or 2 times, or sorry, 2 or 3 times, in order to make sure that we get a solid connection. Another thing is to watch to make sure that you don't accidentally snag the battery here. It's a common problem. And if you do, just try to make sure that you catch yourself early. Alright, so we're actually going to cut this excess right here. And then sew this together. Once again, kind of using that fabric pinching technique we talked about earlier. Just going through one layer and then pushing up. Doing that a few times. Once again, we want to make sure that we get lots of, or a few little stitches and not just one big one, because that'll cause complications that could cause a short circuit later on. Alright, now we're going to go right before this, just to make sure that it's close to it. Right before, or right next to the lily pad. Pull through. And then we're going to pick this up. And just pinch the fabric again. Push through. We'll pull. Alright, and once you get it through once, it gets a lot easier after that. This is a technique that we'll be using all throughout. Now once you've got that through 3 times or more, what you want to do next is actually knot, once again, taking the fabric like this, twisting it, and then we'll just drop the needle through. Oops. So we'll show you that again. So we have the thread right here and here, and it's connected, and we're going to twist that so that way it comes to a cross, and then pull the needle through the cross. Now we want to make sure that we get the knot as close to the hole as we can. One way to do that is to hold your finger down here, and it will actually pull right down. Sorry, not close to the needle, close to the board. Another way that you can do it that'll get you even closer is to hold the needle down there, just like that. Once again, we don't want to pull that too tight, because the tighter it is, the easier it is for the thread to actually fall out. And we will cut that. And there's our first connection. We still have a fairly long amount of thread. And we're going to use that to connect the minus to the minus. Now, before we pull this all the way through, we're going to knot it again. Just so that way it has an easy stopping point. Just using the technique once again. And then pull through. And we will cut off the excess. And we want to loop through this hole a couple times, using that pinching technique so we don't sieve through the glove. And if it gets caught on that, you can just pull it right out just like that. Alrighty. And then we're going to come up along the side of the glove, right next to the plus wire, but we don't want it to touch, because that would cause a short, if you remember. And I'm making sure to only go through one layer of fabric. If you go through two, it will be very awkward later on when you try to put your hand in and the glove is sewn shut. Alright, so once again, we want to get that kind of close to the lily pad, like we just did. And then we'll pull the lily pad up a little, push the fabric right up against it, and pull through. Just keep threading it through that hole. Alright, once again, we are going to take this and knot it, and using the needle, try and get that knot right up next to the hole, just like that. Then pull that through, and there we go. And then we'll trim off the excess. Now we'll test if it works by putting the battery in. There's a plus side. You know that it's turned on if that light blinks a little bit when you turn it on. That is the reset indicator. You can also test if it's on by pushing this little button here. If you push it, it should blink. And that's how to connect that. Next we will be connecting the buzzer to the battery and to number 9 on the Arduino.